Have you ever listened to the white space between two letters? Where nothing is written, but everything someone tried to hide is kept. A night over the San Francisco Bay, fog crawling along the street like a secret on the run. A hand sets down a pen, not to tell a story but to bait a trap. Squares, strange glyphs, substitutions. They look like a game, sound like a dare, and feel like a cold nick at the back of your neck. He does not write his name. He writes the blank. And we fly to it like moths discovering flame inside our own darkness. Tonight, I'll take you to hear what those blanks are saying about Zodiac, the one who turned language into a maze, about the Unsolved Ciphers, doors left half open, just enough for an eye to look out, but not enough for a true face to step into the light. If you're ready, open your ears, slow your breath, and let the rain on the roof finish the rest. Welcome to our noir podcast, where stories aren't just told, they're lit, like a crime scene. Tonight's episode, the Zodiac Killer, the Unsolved Ciphers. We won't chase the myth, we'll chase its structure. Because behind every character is a breath, behind every blank is an intention. Zodiac, a name he gave himself. As if borrowing the sky as witness. Letters to newsrooms, clippings, 6 ciphers arrayed like soldiers on paper. Some have been solved, but the unsolved pieces, that's where the dark is most at ease. In this episode, we'll walk through how a cipher is staged to steer public attention. The acoustic pockets where Zodiac hides intent in tone, cut rhythms, and strategic repetition. 2 knots still tied, a short self-naming fragment, and a terse directional clue. And finally, the test for us when we read a mystery, the mystery reads us back. If you're ready to rest your hand on a door that only opens halfway, come with me. San Francisco, late 60s, steep streets, fog, sodium lamps. People talk about freedom, protest, rock music, and nights as long as a question. In a newspaper corner, an envelope opens, a strange, self-asserting, goading voice. Not a letter, but a sequence. Not just words, but a game. This is the Zodiac speaking. A declaration that doesn't need to roar. It only needs a switch to turn on the public spotlight. And then the squares appear, like a window fogged by a breath, forcing you to wipe it clean. And as you wipe, you're already standing in his doorway. Let me say this right now. A cipher isn't only for hiding. A cipher is for steering attention. A string of symbols might carry nothing critical, but the act of trying to guess its meaning, that is the performance. Anyone who's stared at a simple substitution grid knows the frightening part is not the 1,000 wrong paths. It's the one true path, realized too late. Zodiac chose the perfect stage. The press, the public, and an era addicted to symbols. The crosshair sigil, both a target and a compass pointing back to him. With every letter, he directs. With every cipher, he builds a revolving door. Segue. Let's set aside the stage lights, down to the machinery, where the trick creaks. If you've ever worked a grid, you know habits emerge. Letters like to repeat. 4 syllables like to cluster. Writers like rhythm. Zodiac knew that. He sprinkled repetition like crumbs to lead detective birds. A letter rarely walks alone. A cluster rarely lacks the handwriting of habit. But once you find the beat, you notice he breaks it at the critical turns. That's the decoy motif, a planted footprint right before he slips into the dark. Some long ciphers have been read, brazened with bragging and provocation. But two short fragments, they stand like nails, hammered into collective memory. The short, self-naming fragment, just a few lines, a "fill my name here" trap. The directional fragment, a condensed formula "go toward," a hint like directions to a confession, hanging midair. Why is short so hard? Because the shorter it is, the higher the odds of false fits. Here's the dark elegance, just enough data to chase, one notch short of ever catching up. We'll read them, not the letters, but the intent. Picture a small sheet, a few lines of symbols, opening with a tennis serve to the reader's brain. My name is... Those three words aren't there to reveal. They're there to choreograph expectation. From police to puzzle hobbyists, everyone snaps to the same reflex. Drop a name into the gap. But a real name? Why need a cipher? If the goal were safety, he wouldn't showboat. If the goal were showboating, he wouldn't tell the truth. So what's the goal? To tie public attention to a thread so thin that every time a headline says, "My name is," Zodiac is summoned without appearing. Technically, short text demands assumptions. You assign substitutions, 0 for 4. Invent rules and sketch the missing part yourself. He knows that. He makes you write his name with your own imagination. And the second fragment, a direction dressed like a formula, this angle, that distance, a geographic anchor like a landmark. It's a handmade compass, with a magnet hidden under the table bending the needle. The psychology of directions? The sense of almost being there. Straight lines, a turn of degrees, a measured radius. Everything feels quantified. All you have to do is go. But these directions sketch a map for a city in motion. He hands us a ruler, but moves the reference point. He hands us a formula, but leaves the unit unknown. And the moment we think we're touching it, we've only brushed a very convincing illusion. Segue. Which begs the question, if this is so, why were other ciphers solved? Longer ciphers yield when we hear the prose rhythm under the symbols. Over a stretch, 6 letter frequencies. Grammar skeletons, 6, and the author's habit of saying too much, they betray him. With enough sample, you can hear the original tune, like a song on a staticky radio. The lesson? The longer you write, the clearer your nature leaks. The shorter you write, the easier your nature becomes a shadow. Understood both. Focus on 3 gears. Point 8, homophonic substitution flattening letter frequencies. 6, turning E not quite into E, A not quite into A. Decoy motifs. Set a beat, then break it at the turn. Pragmatic signaling. A boastful tone while keeping crucial blanks, forcing the reader to complete the picture. Turn them together, and you get a powerful mirage. So close, almost solved. That almost is the drug. But noir isn't just technique. Noir is a stance toward the world. In film noir, light doesn't pour down on faces. It bounces up from wet pavement, In cipher noir, meaning doesn't trickle from above, it bounces up from the reader into the text. Zodiac, or more precisely the Zodiac product co-manufactured by media, lives on that kind of light. Every time we shine a beam, his shadow grows an inch. So when we talk about him, learn to slow down and dim the lamp, honor the victims, and question our own infatuation. You, 66 the listener, are also a character here. You want to solve, because solving is a way to recover control. You want to name, because naming can thin the dark. But what if this mystery exists to define us, not to be defined by us? What if my name is really asking, what is your name when you face the dark? Step into the dark room. A text is an undeveloped negative. You bathe it in the chemicals of statistics, intuition, and stylistic experience. The image appears, but some patches stay white, where exposure was too bright or too dim. Zodiac's two short pieces are those patches. One blown out, one underexposed. The harder you push, the noisier it gets. Sometimes the skill we need is learning to read the noise. What we know, some ciphers have been read, revealing a tone of brag, challenge, and attention-seeking. Two short fragments, a self-naming bit and a directional hint, remain as knots. Methods include substitution, decoy repetition, and pragmatic staging. What we don't know, a definitive identity behind the handwriting. A final rule, if any, to unlock those two short pieces. How much of the breadcrumb trail is genuine and how much is stage prop? What we can test without myth-making. Read the rhythm. Mark clusters where the beat breaks, odd punctuation. Compare length. The shorter the text, the higher the apophenia risk. Demand independent corroboration. Check pragmatics. What are we being made to feel before we are made to think? Now, so point 4, back to my name is. In many cultures, naming bestows identity. Here, point 6, the name is used to feed a fabricated identity. He didn't wait for society to name the crimes. He hung a sign so society would have to see it. The fear isn't that we don't know the real name, it's that we know the name he wants us to know, and we use it daily. Spread a worn map on the table. Landmarks, longitude, latitude, confident lines. But if the map is drawn for a particular night, with city lights as variables, one small shift of the anchor point can send the whole crowd astray. Zodiac's directional fragment exploits exactly this. It gives us a tool, measure angle, measure radius, but hides the nature of the origin. Like saying, count down from that star, when clouds cover the sky. True crime storytelling slips easily into the halo of mystery. Each time we marvel at a clever misdirection, remember, at the center are people. So here, I frame Zodiac as a black media mechanism, not a dark genius. His aim wasn't only to avoid arrest, it was to become the story. Our job is to dim the halo and give the story back to its center. Victims, community, and how an attention-hungry society can be led. If you want to develop a mysterious text yourself, 1. Read it aloud. Listen for beat, emphasis, and shortness of breath. 2. Mark repetitions, where symbols recur, start, middle, end. 3. Separate voices. What's boasting, what's shielding, what's controlling. 4. Ask, is your feeling induced by the text or by your expectation? When you're done, you might not discover anyone's name, but you'll map, point 6 to a degree, Points 6. Your own mechanism of being led. The writer engineers an illusion of progress. The reader supplies emotional fuel, expectation, fear, the urge to close the file. The blank where the two meet. It absorbs meaning from both and returns a shape-shifting story. Understand this triangle, and we stop asking, what is his name? We ask, why do we need his name so badly? Some mysteries are solved with a name. Others, like Zodiac's short slips of paper, are solved with a new habit. The habit of not letting our light feed someone else's shadow. Tonight, we listen to the white space between characters. We didn't hear anyone's name, but we did hear ourselves, in the way a language game can lead us. If this episode helped you, leave a comment. Have you ever been led by another cipher? In life? In media? Which dark mechanism should we dissect next? Don't forget to subscribe, because many doors remain half open. And remember, in every noir story, don't chase the shadow. Learn to control the light. Music fades, rain recedes, street lamp 2. See you in the next episode. Sleep well.